Hey everyone, and welcome back to Open Hybrid. So September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and our last guest seeks to break down the walls of toxic masculinity, racism, spiritual abuse, and mental health stigma, one song and or poem at a time. Floating between the sounds of gospel and soul and the likes of acoustic folk and blues, he uses his love for people and his love for God to build dialogue around mental health and masculinity. He's also the author of The Quiet Way. Please welcome singer-songwriter, poet, and author C. Lilley. Hello and welcome.
Hi, good morning. How are you today?
We are fabulous, and thank you so much for being with us. And most importantly, I want to acknowledge you for the services that you are providing to our next generation. Before we get into that, I would love for us to have a conversation about your being boisterous about your experience with your attempt.
Yeah, so for those who know me or have seen any of my work, a lot of the stuff that I end up talking about, like you said, is suicide prevention and mental health, and that doesn't just come from a passion for it. The passion actually comes from personal experience. So when I was really young, right around 11 or 12, I actually did attempt suicide, and I did. It didn't work. I'm still here, right? But it was a very, very rough time in my life. At the time, childhood mental health, like children's mental health and children's psychology, wasn't as pushed forward, and it wasn't as developed as it is now. Along with the fact that growing up in a West Indian household, mental health often isn't taken as seriously when it comes to like the named disorders like anxiety, depression, or even things like ADHD. So going through my puberty years, when my depression really developed, it was really tough, which culminated in an actual suicide attempt. Yeah.
Can we just really quickly talk about what the depression symptoms were and what became so extreme to the point that you made that decision?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was 11 or 12. I was in junior high. For a couple of reasons. I was growing up in Brooklyn at the time, and I wasn't very athletic. My voice hadn't dropped yet. I loved poetry. I loved music. I was very smart. I was able to do like all of my work, and it was no problem. And at the time, I was heavily bullied at school. Right. I would come home and I'd just be sad. I'd just be down, and the way that it kind of manifested was what my parents would call laziness. So, not wanting to get out of bed, always being tired. In some ways, it also was exhibited in overeating. So, finding a lot of comfort in food as a kid. There was. There was getting connected to pornography at a very young age and kind of attaching myself to that as well. And that culminated in it was just a Saturday when my parents were asleep and I got up before them, and I took some Tylenol. I took a large bottle of Tylenol, and I tried to end it like that. And it's interesting because the bullying didn't stop after my attempt, and life didn't just magically get better. But I remember that this is actually something that I remembered very recently. I remembered that a few weeks after that attempt, I found a keyboard that my grandfather bought me. I actually keep a picture of my grandfather with me in my studio.
Oh, how beautiful.
And I found a keyboard that my grandfather had bought me, and I put some batteries in it, and I started playing again because I had played when I was like a really young kid. And I just put all of my focus into that. You know what I mean? I started playing. I got myself a little radio that I put like right by my bed. So I was just listening to Radio Disney all day. And like I said, things didn't get better in terms of just how my brain was working at the time, all through junior high school. But it did give me something to look forward to. So I was
It
able
was
to.
like almost like your form of therapy. You found your own means to just be with self and also soothe whatever those emotions were through your music and your writing too, right? Because
Yeah.
it sounds to me like you didn't really have somebody to talk to at the time. Is
That is very true. So because I didn't have a lot of friends at school, and I actually didn't have a lot of friends at my church either, which is usually where you're able to find a friend group. I didn't, and I'm the oldest sibling, right? So all of my siblings were much younger. My mom was in no position to support me. My father was emotionally unavailable. So there was just a lot of, it was like a hornet's nest of terribleness, right? But I was able to find something in music. I started journaling as well. There was a TV show called Doug where he would journal every day. So I was like, I'll journal. Let's see what happens. Journaled for a little bit, got feelings down on paper, and really started to kind of work those things out that way up until I reached high school.
right. No, it's a wonderful piece of advice for anyone who may be watching, right? Because while if you find that you don't have someone to talk to, putting it down on paper is almost like a means of releasing it from your body.
Hmm.
And so even though there isn't an actual physical person you're speaking to, at least you're speaking to the paper by releasing it, through your writing. And
Yeah.
so now you go around and you sing and you recite and you work with the next generation. So let's just share with everyone where you are now. I mean, what we were just discussing, everyone, in case you're tuning in now, was an experience that he had when he was in junior high school. And so now, as a full grown man, he has made it his mission to pass it forward in the sense of advocating for anyone who may be under a lot of pressure, or and or considering,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I don't
it's
even
hard.
like saying it. I don't
It's
even
hard
like
to
saying
say.
it.
No, but
Yeah.
you're right. It's hard to say, and my goal is not to make it easier to say, but make it easier to share. And the reason why I say that is because one of the things that I struggled with when I was a kid that I want to mitigate now as an artist with all of the stuff that I'm putting out, is making sure that the language of "you are not alone" is part of it, right? For example, the song that I'm going to be sharing with you guys called Love You in the Dark directly comes from, I'm married now. So it comes from my
And you have a child on the
and
way.
there's a baby coming, right?
Oh,
So there's baby coming, but it directly came from watching how my wife relates to me when I'm depressed, right? So the song actually isn't from my point of view; it's from my wife's point of view, and it's this idea of like no matter how dark you get, I'm actually still going to love you, right? And my goal is to make sure that especially men, especially black men and especially Caribbean men, know that one, your feelings are not wrong or bad. They deserve to be experienced and they deserve to be written down and shared, whether you share them with a paper or with a close friend. You are not alone in feeling those things, and you owe it to yourself and you deserve to take care of not just your physical body but your mental body as well, because the mental and the physical are always connected. So that's really the goal with everything that I'm doing, making sure that the language of "you are not alone" is at the center of it.
that's beautiful. That's wonderful. So are you performing anywhere? Like, do you have workshops? Like, what exactly and how do you offer these services in music and or writing?
Yeah, so I do a couple of things. One, I I do pop-ups like at little open mics around the city. So if you go to places like the New Yorican Poets Cafe or Bowery Poetry Club, you might see me performing, as well as other open mics. Like there's an open mic in the Parkside Lounge in Lower Manhattan called Inspired Word. I try to go there as often as I can. Other ways that I get to share my story are one, through my YouTube channel. All of my socials are C Lilley Artist. So if you go to youtube.com/C Lilley Artist, you'll find me. And I share a lot of content there, both, just the works that I'm doing, but also kind of, I call them video essays about being honest about what I'm feeling. So a lot of it connects to me being an artist, but it's really ending up talking about like emotions and feeling and all of that. As well as through my website, I get a lot of booking from other organizations that will allow me to share my story, and I've gotten a chance to perform. I'm performing at a music festival at the end of September, which is really awesome. In Troy, New York, I've gotten to perform for the City of New York for the Caribbean and Cultural Affairs and World Trade Center. So there are lots of different ways that I've gotten to share my work.
That's wonderful. And we really thank you for coming on and sharing it with our viewers. This C. Lilley, everyone, singer, songwriter, author out there advocating suicide prevention awareness. And if you or someone you know is in trouble, just dial 988 if you need someone to speak to. But in the meantime, we're going to recommend you don't go anywhere, because when we return, C. Lilley is going to sing his song, Love You in the Dark. Don't go anywhere.